Suddenly piece yourself back together now. What's your vision?
Hey guys, I'm Art Bridge and welcome to the very first episode of the Pop Culture Galaxy Show. So I decided to give this thing a try, to create a show that has pretty much everything what Pop Culture Galaxy is, which is video games, movies, comic books, TV, and put it all in one. Like instead of, what I'll do is I'll still separate the segments into its various categories, but for one, if you want to just catch everything in one, I decided to put a whole package together, and I want to see how it does going forward. And I can have like little anecdotes where I talk about stuff that I'm watching, stuff that I'm playing, stuff that I'm reading, and then talk about the latest news in various categories of pop culture, right? So hope you guys enjoyed. So leave a comment down below, hit that subscribe button. It's a long show, we got a lot to talk about, so I'll put that stuff from the top. Alright, so let's head into the movie news. First thing I want to talk about is that Aladdin trailer. Disney decided to drop it last night-ish. Yeah, I would say last night as of this recording. And it was pretty much a teaser. Not much footage was shown. It was like a minute and a half. I think it was on the same lines as when they did the Beauty and the Beast thing, when they just showed like a small package, but just to get you familiar, like people who are familiar with the animated film, watch it like, oh my god, yes, I remember all of this. Same thing with Jungle Book, and now we have Aladdin. And Aladdin is one of those movies before because it came out before Lion King, where I watched that movie a lot. That movie made me regret the fact that I didn't have a Sega Genesis, because Aladdin came out for that and it had smooth gameplay. It was 2D, but still, that was like, for the time it came out, the graphics looked amazing. And then I watched the movie a lot, like I almost knew the words of the song word for word. I'm not gonna try to sing them now because I'm not a singer, so don't expect me to. But seeing the teaser, and it's starting with Arabian Nights, which is I think the first number in the movie. And it looks like we're seeing the opening of the movie, and I remember that when they're traveling to get the genie, and I think the first people who go in there, they end up dying. The lion opens up and because they're not worthy to take the lamp or something like that. But see what was it? The monkey was Abu, right? What was the name of the parrot? But you see the parrot. I wonder if Gilbert Gottfried is doing the voice. I don't know, but Guy Ritchie's directing a movie. I'm sure it's gonna have some of the Guy Ritchie flair to it, like quick cuts, fast moving, all that stuff. But the music, just hearing the music, we didn't get to see Will Smith as the genie, unfortunately. I think they're probably saving that for later. I wonder how he's gonna look. Like, I can't picture Will being the genie. Obviously he can't play it like Robin Williams. He has to have its own flavor to it. So I'm like, but the Robin Williams genie is such an iconic performance, and the look of that genie is so iconic that you're gonna have to rewire your brain to accept not only a different voice, which is Will Smith, but a different look. But hey man, I'm excited. Like, so far, the only one I haven't seen that they remade was Pete's Dragon, but I was never a Pete's Dragon fan anyway. I actually never seen the animated film, so I didn't see the film either. But every other remake that they did, Cinderella, Jungle Book, Beauty and Beast, even though I think the Beauty and Beast animated film is still way better than the movie wasn't bad. But yeah, I am excited for this. Yo, Disney, I'll tell you something about Disney. Next year, they're going to destroy the box office. Like this year alone, they had Ant-Man, Black Panther, and Avengers: Infinity War. And those 3 movies alone gave Disney around $4 billion. $4 billion, those 3 movies. And we're not talking about Incredibles, which is the highest grossing animated movie ever. We're not talking about Mary Poppins that comes out later this year. We're not talking about Wreck-It Ralph 2 that comes out later. Like this year alone, they already made $4 billion. Next year, they're going to destroy, like like every other company should just go, all right, just let's not release a movie. I mean, that's unrealistic, but they pretty much should. Let's count the movies Disney has coming out next year. They have Avengers 4, which is probably going to get another $2 billion. That's if it's good. If it's good, they're going to get another $2 billion. You know, if the reviews come out and they're like, it's a disappointment, maybe it'll temper people's expectation, but I don't know, man. Marvel hasn't delivered, apart from like say Iron Man 3. Let's not talk about that. But they really haven't delivered a bad film yet. They delivered good to great, but never bad. So I don't expect a bad Avengers 4 film. But anyway, so they have Avengers 4, right? They have Captain Marvel. They have I was about to say Spider-Man, but that's Sony. So that's Marvel. The 2 movies that Marvel is putting out, that Disney's putting out, is Avengers and Captain Marvel. Then you have for Disney proper, not Disney proper. Disney proper, Aladdin and Lion King. Aladdin and Lion King. Let that sink in. Let it sink in. Aladdin and Lion King. Like Lion King alone. Because Lion King is bringing back Hans Zimmer to do the score, so it's gonna sound like Lion King. They're bringing back James Earl Jones, so it's gonna sound like Mufasa. And then you're adding Donald Glover, which is, he's a big pop star right now. Childish Gambino, even though he's gonna retire that moniker. Then Beyonce. You talking about Beyonce? You're bringing Beyonce into the mix? Okay, now we're talking. So that movie is just gonna dominate. So that's Lion King. What else? Then you have Toy Story 4. Oh, that's Pixar, by the way. Toy Story 4. It's like Disney's not playing games next year. I mean, they're not playing games this year either, but still. Their arsenal. Like, I'm excited, but I'm scared at the same time. I'm excited because we're getting so much stuff from Disney. Good stuff. It's not that stuff like we don't want. We're getting awesome, amazing stuff. But why I'm scared is that, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And then when you have a studio that's basically ahead of its competition, not by a margin, but like a billion miles ahead of their competition, then they can get complacent and be like, yo, we have no competition. Let's start doing some stuff that is anti-consumerism. Let's charge people this because we can. Like, where else are you gonna get this kind of entertainment? Right? I hope they think consumer first. Because right now the reason why they're winning is because they're thinking consumer first. They're thinking, oh, people want to see this stuff. People want to see a Captain Marvel. People want to see a Black Panther. Oh, people are gobbling up this Avengers stuff because that's what they wanted for decades. People love that stuff. Remember your favorite animated films back in the day, where we're doing live action versions of those, and we're not just gonna do it for like a quick cash grab. We're actually making you feel like this was a part, like how it is in your childhood. We're giving you that same feeling, or at least we're trying to. Because as much as Beauty and the Beast movie was, the animated movie was better, I gotta say that the movie at least tried to make you feel like the animated film did, but because it's just not as fluid as the animated film, it just it didn't grab me. But it did give me that nostalgic feeling, especially with the songs and stuff. But Disney is thinking consumer first, so that's why they're winning now. But then when they realize that we are gonna just support them through and through, they might switch. And I hope that's why I kind of want Warner Brothers to get their act together, because if they do, Warner Brothers is pretty much in a position to be like Disney. They have the parks. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't they the ones who own Six Flags? So they have parks. That's if they do own Six Flags. I never really took the time to look into that, but I gotta look into that. They have cartoons like Disney in terms of iconic cartoons like the Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny. They have an arsenal of characters. And then they have a comic book company as well. Disney has Marvel. Warner Brothers has DC. So they are in the perfect position to compete with Disney. They're a multi-conglomerate company as well. They're owned by, they have their hands in television stations, and I think they're the ones who own HBO, right? I mean, they have everything going for them to really compete with Disney. So I gotta see them step their game up. So Disney is always on their toes. Like, all right, we can't let Warner Brothers catch up. Like, no other studio is gonna catch up. Universal is not gonna catch up. Sony is not gonna catch up. Fox is gonna go with Disney anyway. So it's Warner Brothers and Disney pretty much, and they really have to go. Like, Warner Brothers really have to step their game up if they want to compete, and I hope they do, because like I said, competition. They have the competition. We get terrific art out of competition, and I really hope they batten down the hatches. The next topic I want to talk about is Hobbs and Shaw. Now, Hobbs and Shaw is the spin-off movie from the Fast and Furious franchise that stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham. And it's funny, right? When this was announced, when Hobbs and Shaw was announced, a lot of movies that do well, like they and particular characters are standouts. They're like, oh yeah, we're developing a spin-off of these characters, and it'll be great, whatever. And it never happens, and it keeps happening over and over, where a character is popular, and like, oh, we're gonna spin off that character. A few examples I can think about is a character that Tom Cruise played in Tropic Thunder. It was a standout. They wanted to do a movie about him. Didn't happen. James Bond, the one with Pierce Brosnan, I think it was the last one, Die Another Day. You had Jinx, the character that Halle Berry played. Oh, we want to spin her off into a movie. Never happened. Mad Max, Fury Road. Furiosa was a huge character. It's pretty much her movie anyway. I mean, Mad Max was a supporting character in her movie. But they were like, oh, let's spin her off into a movie. I don't think that's happening. So when the whole Hobbs and Shaw thing was happening, I was like, what are they trying to do? A cinematic universe out of Fast and Furious? That's not happening. But then, Steam started to pick up, and production went in it, and castings and all that stuff. And then I'm like, wow, they're really doing this. And then now the latest bit of news is we know who the villain is. And the villain is played by Idris Elba. The Rock pretty much took to Twitter and had a revelation. Let me just read what he says right here. He says on his Twitter, I learned a long time ago when I was a very sinful, raising villainous man in the crazy world of pro wrestling. I mean, I got into it when he was turning from a villain, so I never really got to see him full as a villain. So, coming back, that heroes are only as great as their greatest villains. A pleasure to introduce the man himself at Idris Elba. We brought in to our Fast and Furious franchise to wreak havoc, hell, and mayhem on our heroes Hobbs and Shaw. The name? Brixton. The record? Undefeated. The promise? Showdown of all showdowns. So cool having my brother at Idris Elba come aboard. I think that's what he was trying to say. It's cut off right there. But yeah, so Idris Elba is playing the character Brixton, who's the villain, and of course we get our first first picture of how he looks. It's not Idris's first time being a villain. He was a villain in Star Trek Beyond, which is, I think, the best one out of the J.J. Abrams movie. The J.J. Abrams verse. He didn't direct that movie; he just produced it. But he was the best. That movie, I think, was the best film out of the three. He played the villain Crawl in that one, and he was in Jungle Book. He played Shah Khan in that. So yeah, it's not his first stint as a villain. Didn't see Beast of No Nation, but I'm pretty sure he's a bad guy in that one. I gotta watch it and check it out. But anyway, yeah. So Hobbs and Shaw, he's a villain. I'm excited. I'm actually excited for it. I'm excited. Like, we've seen the chemistry that Hobbs and Shaw had in the last Fast and the Furious movie. So I expect to see more of that. Yeah, like, the action is probably gonna be on point. You know, The Rock being in there, Jason Statham with his kung fu stuff. Man, yeah, so I'm excited. So can't wait to see that movie. You know how I feel about the whole James Gunn situation. I don't want to go over it because we've gone over it for months now, but let's touch a little bit on it. So basically Disney fired James Gunn over old tweets that he already apologized for, because some jackass on the internet didn't like what he said about Trump. So he put a bunch of tweets in a collage and say, hey, look at the guy Disney hired, blah blah blah. And then Disney, in a couple of hours, without even doing their due diligence, fired him over nonsense. And then they're thinking that, oh, they dodged a bullet. Everybody was expecting the guy to get fired anyway, but turned out to be the opposite. People were like, yo, what are you doing, bro? Like, why are you firing James Gunn? Like, hire him back, come on. The cast was in support of him. Other directors were in support of him. I even think Kevin Feige was trying to get his job, get James Gunn back, even though he just didn't say anything publicly about it, and I don't expect him to say anything publicly about it, even in the near future. But even James Gunn wanted him back. Even Kevin Feige wanted him back, but Disney already pulled the trigger, and they didn't want to look like they were weak to bring him back up on board. So they're all right, let's just let the decision stand. My thing is, I always thought Warner Brothers, and I even did a video about this, like, Warner Brothers is definitely gonna snatch this guy up. As soon as it happened, I'm like, yo, Warner Brothers is gonna snatch him up. Disney made a big mistake. Warner Brothers is gonna snatch this guy up. Now, this wouldn't be the first Marvel guy to go over to the other side. We have Joss Whedon, but that wasn't a fired situation. He was just kind of tired of the whole Avengers thing, and he did 3 years of shepherding the MCU, so he was trying to move on. So he moved on to do. He was originally supposed to do Batgirl, but I guess he had some writing stuff to do on Justice League, and then they made him do reshoots, and maybe it was like, yeah, that didn't work out too well. So basically, he's gone from Warner Brothers. And then from the comic book side, you have Brian Michael Bendis, who pretty much put Avengers where they are right now in terms of comic books insertion. I mean, yeah, the movies brought the Avengers way above, but it started from when Brian Michael Bendis started writing the Avengers. And a lot of stuff that the movies adapted was from Brian Michael and other writers too, but you know, his New Avengers was kind of like the staple of what the MCU kind of looks like. So he moved over to DC. Now he's writing Superman. But trust me, Disney has a bunch of talented people working for them. And if Disney lets them go, those talented people, unless those talented people are like, they got charged for some criminal stuff, or they got caught up in the whole Me Too thing, like John Lasseter. Even though I think some company might rehire that guy, but we'll see. But unless it's something really, really serious where that person becomes toxic, trust me, anybody who leaves DC right now, Disney right now, anybody creative in the creative or an executive that leaves Disney right now, they're gonna get snatched up. They're gonna get snatched up, and I knew that was gonna happen with James Gunn. And lo and behold, Warner Brothers snatched him up for Suicide Squad. Now, the video I did was that I see James Gunn as the perfect director for Guardians of the Galaxy, for Green Lantern. 40 is the one. For Green Lantern. Now, my thing with Green Lantern, why I thought he would be perfect for it was that, yes, it's set in space like Guardians of the Galaxy, but it was more, I think, more from military. It'll be a different style for him, you know. It's not about the jokes and the bad guys becoming good guys or whatever, or outlaws. It's very much a sort of, I see it as a band of brothers in space, and that would have been a perfect way to make the Green Lantern core film. And you know, just the fact that he has experience working on these huge space epics, that's the only thing that he has in common with Guardians that I thought he could bring to the table for Green Lantern. But no, they decided to put him on Suicide Squad, which has a lot more in common with Guardians than I think Green Lantern would have, because Suicide Squad is bad guys doing good deeds, I guess. Well, not really. I mean, depends on who writes the Suicide Squad, you know. But anyway, he's on board as a writer, possibly directing. And it's been confirmed, even though it's the big trades drop the news. And when big trades usually drop news like that, it's pretty much true, even if the studios don't confirm it. But it's been confirmed. But what they're saying is that he's writing it, and he's offering a new take on the Suicide Squad, whatever that means. I'm trying to think. Okay, so does this new take mean that it's all new characters, or is he going to use the same characters that David Ayer used for his film? Because you're not going to get rid of talents like Will Smith as Deadshot. Like, again, you know, huge name, big draw. Margot Robbie did such a great job of being Harley Quinn. Like, now that Harley Quinn is now an iconic character. You know, like cosplayers are cosplaying as her version of Harley. People are drawing her version of Harley. Yeah, her version of Harley is pretty much what everybody thinks of when they think about Harley Quinn right now, with the whole bat and everything. You know, because usually she has a mallet, but now they're just talking about the bat, whatever. But so you have her character. Is she gonna come back? What other standout? Well, Joel Kinnaman, he played Rick Flag. Is he coming back? Hopefully. I mean, I remember when it was Tom Hardy who was cast as Rick Flag. But I guess either he read the script and it was like, nope, or I think he had scheduling conflicts, but whatever. But that would have been dope if he was in a movie. But James Gunn taking, even like I said, even though I wanted him for Green Lantern, I think it's a great get for DC to get him for Suicide Squad. because yes, his writing really matches that tone, and it's not a stretch. Green Lantern stuff would be a stretch, like he would have to kind of scale back some of his humor stuff for Green Lantern, even though Hal Jordan is, you know, known to crack a few jokes here and there, but he's not like a crude guy or anything like that. But Suicide Squad is filled with crude guys. And then you have Dave Bautista, who is not too happy with Disney right now. He's pretty much being he's been the loudest voice in the creative side in terms of how displeased with the situation he is. And he's loyal to James Gunn. James Gunn pretty much put this guy on the map playing Drax. So, you know, he tweeted out with the retweet of the headline about James Gunn taking on the role as writer and director of Suicide Squad, and he's like, where do I sign up? And yep, so you can expect, if James Gunn and Warner Brothers want him, that Dave will have a role in Suicide Squad. But the thing is, what role would he play? Could be a good Bane. He could be a good Heat Wave. Maybe King Shark, but then he'll have to be in CG and stuff. I don't know. Let's see. I'm really excited to see. Like I said, I want DC to really step their game up and hire talented people to shepherd their projects, and not worry too much about trying to emulate what Marvel is doing. You know, Marvel's been doing it for a while now, so they got that train on lock. Do your own thing and stop trying to be reactionary. Just do your own thing, even if you're not trying to set up a gigantic storyline that'll pay off in the next Justice League movie. Just do great individual movies and worry about crossovers and stuff later. We just need a new Man of Steel movie, and I could be happy. I don't necessarily need a new Batman movie. We had so many of those, and Christopher Nolan did such a great job with his trilogy that we can take a rest on Batman. But we haven't had a good standalone Superman movie since Man of Steel, and then before that was Superman Returns, and then before that was Superman 4. Like, yeah, Superman hasn't been getting enough love, in my opinion. So we need to step that. We need to do something about that, Warner Brothers. All right. And then the last topic I want to talk about in terms of movie news is Ryan Coogler is confirmed for Black Panther 2. That's a no-brainer. if I gotta say, call it like it is. It's a no-brainer. I mean, he did such a great job with the first one. Why wouldn't you want to rehire him? And why wouldn't he want to come back? I mean, unless he had a terrible time directing Black Panther 1, and unless Disney just weren't happy with the results of how Black Panther 1 turned out, which none of what I mentioned is true at all, why wouldn't they want to reteam? So that's a no-brainer. The only thing is, it puts Avengers 4 in a really, really tricky situation, right? I mean, you have all these movies that are getting greenlit that feature characters that, spoiler for anybody, for the 0.00011% who have never seen Avengers Infinity War. All those characters, a lot of characters vanished into dust, including Spider-Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, all of the Guardians of the Galaxy except for Rocket. Pretty much a lot of people died in that movie, and a lot of those movies are getting sequels with the stars behind it. Far From Home, Tom Holland is shooting that right now. So, and Kevin Feige said that movie would be the direct follow-up to Avengers 4. So it's not a prequel. So we pretty much know these characters are coming back. So what's the stakes? They have to deliver a movie that has stakes, right, and has consequences and lasting effects. So I don't think the effect of the MCU going forward is all these characters are died and what is the MCU like without those characters. I think something else has to be the cost of everything that happens in Avengers 4. I don't think it's a death. A lot of people are saying, oh, some of the original members or at least one of the original members are gonna die. I don't think so. I think what the cost would be is that, if I had to guess, is that time passed between Infinity War and Avengers 4, whatever that's gonna be called. Some time has passed, and the Avengers that got dusted, whatever shenanigans they pulled to bring those characters back, they're gonna come back to a universe that's like, say the movie takes place 5 years later. They're basically gonna be missing 5 years of their lives. I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, not that much stuff can happen in 5 years, right? I don't know. But 5 years is gone, and a lot. Basically, the world has changed in the 5 years, where only half the population existed. And maybe when they come back, maybe that world is too small for them, or maybe it's big now, like it's thriving. So who knows? I'm trying to think of what could possibly be the outcome of everything. So yeah, that's my take. It's more of an environmental change, and not necessarily somebody dies, right? All right, so that's just my take. So Black Panther 2 is coming. Ryan Coogler is directing. They plan to start shooting sometime between next year and 2020. So I expect to see, like, maybe the movie comes out in late 2020, early 2021. That would be enough time to put Storm in it. God, I hope Storm is in Black Panther 2. That'd be great. Alright, so that'll do it for the movie news portion of the Pop Culture Galaxy show. Now, let's move on to television. Alright, so for TV news, we only have one piece of item, but it's pretty good. We have the first official image of Ruby Rose, who has been cast as Batwoman in the Arrow crossover that's happening. We have the first image of her as Batwoman, and we also have the title of the crossover that will be happening. So first the title is Elseworlds. It's a take on DC's sort of alternate universe, one and done stories called Elseworlds, where it's not in the main universe, but it features characters that you would normally see in the main universe, like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and you just do like a one-off story that, you know, could feature the character vastly different from the one that you know. For example, Kingdom Come was an Elseworld story, which features the Justice League when they're older and they have to fight like these brand new up and coming heroes / vigilantes. It's also famous for having the big fight between Captain Marvel at the time, but it's Shazam and Superman, which everybody wants to see happen in the DC EU with the Shazam movie that's coming out, and of course Henry Cavill as Superman. Even though we don't know what the deal with that yet, we don't know if it's truly the end for Henry Cavill. But anyway, so that's Elseworlds. You know, those are kind of the stories they tell in Elseworlds. So I can imagine the mere fact that it's called Elseworlds, that the crossover will have them visiting multiple Earths. But we've seen that before, right? We've seen that in the last crossover and crossover before that, where it had, you know, Supergirl coming over into our universe and them going into another universe. So I don't know what makes this one so different. I mean, obviously they're gonna meet up with Kate Kane, which is Batwoman. Does Batman exist in her universe? We don't know any of those details yet, but I must say she looks quite comic book accurate, including the long red hair, which is pretty much a wig, and the bat insignia, which is red. Inside of the cape is usually full red, but I guess they're trying to be a little bit more stylistic in the live action version, so there's red and black mixed in, so it looks really good. Like I'm excited to see what Ruby Rose brings to the table. Of course, I've seen her in Orange is the New Black, but she really, I mean, I wouldn't say she didn't have a lot to do in that, but she didn't have to carry an emotional weight in that story. So her acting muscles wasn't, exercised to such a degree that, you could definitely see her as a powerful actress. But I've seen her in that. I've seen her in Triple X2 and what's the other movie? John Wick 2. So yeah, she doesn't have to flex her acting muscle as much, but she's I think she's good enough to play Batwoman, Kate Kane. So hey, I'm excited to see what she brings to the table. You know what I'm saying? So let's see. All right, now let's move on to video game news. So in one of those news that is a surprise to no one, the PS5 has been confirmed as being developed by Sony. I mean, come on. What do you think was going to happen? You think PS4 was going to be the end of it? So it's like the first confirmation from Sony CEO Kenichiro Yoshida. He was speaking to Financial Times and he said, it makes sense for us to be developing a new hardware. And one thing he did say is that the PlayStation 5, which he didn't name it yet. I mean, but there's no other name to name it. I don't think they're gonna go from PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4 to all of a sudden calling it PlayStation something else. It's PlayStation 5. It's a no-brainer. But the architecture will be similar to the PS4. I suspect the reason they're doing that is because they want all the vast library of the PS4 to be backwards compatible, so they'll be able to play PS4 games on it. The reason why you can't play PS3 games and PS2 games and PS1 games on your PlayStation 4 is because the architecture of those three consoles were so different. The PlayStation 2 had the Emotion Engine involved, and then the PlayStation 3 had the Cell engine. So it's like the architecture was just so vastly different. I managed to get the PlayStation 3 that could play PlayStation 1 and 2 games as well. So I'm never selling that. I'm keeping that. So I have my PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 in one console, and I got my PlayStation 4. But when PlayStation 5 comes out and it's fully confirmed that it's backwards compatible, then I'll probably think about getting rid of my PlayStation 4. But for now, them saying it's close in architecture to PlayStation 4 really sells the idea that they're not changing too much. You'll be able to play your PlayStation 4 games. So what can we expect from a PlayStation 5? I think a lot of people are thinking about 4K 60. 4K resolution, 60 frames per second. I don't know how feasible that is. I mean, right now you have the 2080 Ti that's out, that's able to run the newer games in 4K 60 frames. I think they did a benchmark on Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I think that's able to do 4K 60. That's without the RTX features turned on, the ray tracing turned on. Ray tracing is not even available yet. But are we realistically thinking about that? Because right now, what we're getting in the PlayStation 4 era for most of the games, some games can run natively in 4K, but for most games they're doing checkerboarding to get to 4K. So they're running natively at like 1440p maybe or 1800p, and then they're upscaling using checkerboarding methods to 4K, and then but it's all running in 30 frames, whether it's native or it's checkerboarding. It's all running at 30 frames per second. So maybe native 4K 60 is unrealistic, but maybe native 4K 30 would be the way to go for the next console generation. I know the Xbox One is touting, the Xbox One X is touting that they're doing all these games in native 4K, and I think Digital Foundry did confirm that some of these games are running natively in 4K, but of course it's running 30 frames per second. So if Sony wants to compete with the Xbox One X, I really think they would have to push for 4K 60. I don't know how realistically that'll be in the next couple of years. I think we're looking at a 2020 possible launch here. If you're going by the history of the past releases of consoles, I think the generation is coming to an end around 2020. We'll expect to see a new console drop. 2019 should be filled with, the rest of Sony's exclusive that they're trying to push. Death Stranding, The Last of Us 2, Days Gone, and maybe Final Fantasy VII Remake. I gotta think they're developing those for the current gen. They haven't mentioned that they're moving anything to. Well, they did mention somehow that they're doing it in multiple parts, so they're thinking about current and future gen. So at least some of the multiple parts will make it to the PS5 and Xbox 2, whatever they call that. And Cyberpunk. Speaking of Cyberpunk, they're saying they're developing it for current gen, but I'm sure that they're sort of keeping in mind PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2. Because I don't see, there's not much of a leap in technology right now. It's being incremented. You had games that were on PS3 that most of them were in 720p, and now you have all games running 1080p on PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4 Pro is doing 1800 or 1440p natively, and then checkerboarding it. So I think the next logical step is native 4K, but that frames though. That's what we gotta really think about. All right. So the next big news I want to talk about is Star Citizen. Now, I wasn't following the Star Citizen development cycle very intently a long time. I would hear about it once in a while, like somebody's like, "Hey, remember that game that's coming out?" This thing was announced in 2011, I believe. It was a Kickstarter game. It got funded. Was supposed to come out in 2014. It was developing on the Cry engine. It was supposed to be like a space sim game like EVE Online, but more first person. Like basically to give, it's like a full first person integrated universe with the mechanics of like a EVE, I think, where it's a it's an MMO basically. Developed on the Cry engine, and then they had to move it to a new engine, and then a whole lawsuit happened, and people were complaining, "Where's this game? It missed its deadline. It didn't come out in 2014 like it's supposed to come out." And I just lost touch with this game until CitizenCon 2018, they released two things. They released a Squadron 42 trailer, which is a single player portion of that game, which I didn't know they were even doing. I thought it was just gonna be like a regular MMO. So they're doing like a single player portion of the game called Squadron 42. Now Squadron 42 it's like they took every actor in the world and put it in this game. Like damn near. Like they have, let me get the list here. They have Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson from X-Files. They have John Rhys Davis. He played Gimli in Lord of the Rings. They have Ian Cunningham. He plays Davos in Game of Thrones. They have Mark Strong in it, Gary Oldman, and they have Andy Serkis playing. I guess I don't remember seeing Andy Serkis in the trailer. Maybe I did see him. I just didn't notice him. And there was tons of other actors too that I was like, I know that face, I just don't know their name. But these are some of the names I could remember seeing. Some of the faces I could remember seeing. Like when I was seeing the trailer, I was like, what the? You have this guy in it? Oh, that guy is in it? Oh, Gillian Anderson is in it? It's like, wow. That's why they really took along with this game. Well, that's one of the reasons they took along with this game. Now, the single player is supposed to be released in episodes as well. And each episode would have like 70 missions or something like that. So that it will be a persistent, ongoing storyline going forward. Now, the other thing they released was they showed like an hour and a half gameplay demo. Well, an hour gameplay demo of the MMO portion of the game. Now, this is what shocked me. This is what blew my mind, because I thought, like I said, I thought it was just gonna be like a space sim, something akin to EVE Online, and yes, it's gonna you'll be able to walk around in your ship, and everything would like work on that level where it's just about ship and simulating that environment. So I was shocked when I saw that the game not only features, like, it basically looks like Cyberpunk 2077. Like, it's pretty much an RPG. You're walking around, you get missions, you have dialogue options, you have the NPCs that are fully animated. Like, at least the one that they showed had like a personality to him, his facial expressions. Yes, there was some jankiness in the demo. Like, for instance, when someone called his actual live person, call his avatar, and his screen comes up, like his face looked like twitching and stuff like that. I was like, whoa, yeah, you guys need to fix that. But if they manage to do the things that they want to do in this game, it will be like the most unique game ever. Like, I don't see any other game that was able to do this. Because for one, yes, you'll be able to get into your ship, fly your ship to different planets, dog fights into your ship, land your ship into bigger ships, control that bigger ship. Then when you go on planet, you can go on foot, and it becomes a FPS, a first-person shooter. And you, like, all these different planets, it's amazing, and you can see that they're really trying to do it. And yes, things are happening that it's glitchy. Like, some NPC will be walking glitched out, and the thing crashed one time when it was drinking coffee, when a character was drinking coffee. But man, like, the studio behind this is Cloud Imperium Games. They started out with a small group, got the Kickstarter fund. Now they've grown to what, 450, 500 people working on this game. You'll be able to buy massive ships. I think like the biggest one that they showcased was the Kraken, and that cost what, like $2 million or whatever, around that. And when you do missions, you get money for it, but then they explain. I think Angry Joe did an interview with one of the guys, and they explain how this will work. Like, yes, you might not have $2 million in your hands right now, but what is, first of all, it's meant for multiple people. The ideal situation is if you have a crew, they all chip in. That's one way for everybody to get to basically own the ship. That's one. Two, you can rent the ship. Keep it for like a month. It's paid at a lower cost, and then if you like it, then you can just do a payment plan, like a mortgage, pretty much, right? So it's not meant, you don't necessarily have to pay $2 million up front, because they're not expecting you to have that much money. But the thing is, your ship can be stolen by pirates, which is cool. It's like everything they explain is just so cool. So someone can come in, steal your ship, but it's not like you're gonna lose all that money. One is there's insurance. You can file a claim, you can get the ship replaced, or some kind of compensation for your stolen ship. And then once you file a claim, the person who steals the ship, they're in deep water now, because they can't travel with that. Basically, their life becomes a living hell, because the authorities are aware that they're in a stolen ship, so they can't go a certain way places without getting hassled. And then even not necessarily that your ship can be stolen, you could put safeguards from people stealing your ship, like all types of security systems in your ship, so that no one steals it. But just in case someone is able to crack it and they steal it, you have insurance. It's like really, really amazing what they thought of, and I dig it. I think I might be giving this a shot. Like, I really hope that when this game launches, it doesn't have a disastrous launch. Like, it's still buggy, it's just not good. There's not that much stuff to do. Like, I always wanted to get into EVE Online, but it was just all like text based. It's not really story driven. I like a little bit story in my games, you know what I mean? Even if it's an MMO or an RTS or whatever, throw a little story in there, and I'll dig it. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. Alright, so that'll wrap up the video games portion of this, and I hope you guys like it. So you can comment down below and hit that thumbs up and all that stuff. Now we move on to the comic book section. Alright, so the comic book, the omnibus I want to talk about today is Gotham City Sirens. Well, they call it Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens, but it's really Gotham City Sirens. They only put Harley Quinn on there just to sell it, because Harley Quinn, at the time this came out, Harley Quinn became a big deal because of the movie and all that stuff going on. But it's really the Gotham City Sirens, and if anybody is the star of it out of the three, is Catwoman. So it consists of Catwoman, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and Harley Quinn. Looking at it wrong here, but really Catwoman is sort of the leader of this crew. I mean, they're equal, they're all equal, but our window into this universe was Catwoman, not Harley Quinn. But what is this about? So we have it's two writers on here. The first half of it was Paul Dini, and the second half was really Tony Bedard. But we had contributions from Peter Calloway and as well in some of the stories. And then artists, the main for most of the art is Gillian March, and then Andreas Ginaldo. And this collects the Gotham City Sirens, issue 1 to 26, and an issue of Catwoman 83, which tied into the Blackest Night storyline, and also kind of like was because Tony Bernard wrote that issue, and then he jumped on to Gotham City Sirens after. He took the story he began with in Catwoman '83 and sort of continued it for the rest of his run on Gotham City Sirens. The art in here from Gilliam March, like because Gotham City Sirens really is supposed to be, let's face it, sexy. It's supposed to be a sexy book. You know, you have the three main characters, which is Catwoman. It's always been beautiful, sexy. Same thing with Harley Quinn with her crazy, messed up things. She's always portrayed as sexy. Like Margot Robbie portrayed her as really sexy, and when you play the Arkham games, you know, she's sexy in those games. And then the sexiest that we've seen Poison Ivy is in Arkham Knight. Like, whoa, damn, right? And so yeah, you pretty much look, if you look at the back right here, it's light, you know, look at it. It's supposed to be, you know, selling sex. Pretty much is what this is. If I take off the dust jacket, there, look at that. And well, it's not much here, but you know, it's supposed to be very noirish, sexy stuff going on. Yeah, so it's pretty much using that aspect to sell it. But then, you know, you have some cool stories involved. So this takes place after Bruce dies at the end of, spoiler alert, Final Crisis. And Dick Grayson is a new Batman at this time. And I think Hush, even though I didn't read those issues, I pretty much got it, like I got the gist while reading this. Also, that Hush, Thomas Elliott, who we first got introduced to in the Hush storyline that Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb wrote, you know, that character, I guess he transformed himself to look more like Bruce, and then he took over Bruce's life. And when this begins, Catwoman, I think, she was recovering from what Hush did to her, where he took her heart out or something like that. They healed her and sent her on her way, but she's not fully recovered. And then she's fighting this guy called Bone Crusher, Bone Buster, some nonsense. This guy right here is fighting this guy. She couldn't handle him, and then Poison Ivy comes in and rescues her. And then Poison Ivy's been living with Edward Nygma and Harley Quinn at the time. They decide, you know what, we don't need Edward Nygma, and we need to stick together so we can survive what's coming forward. So let's pool our resources. And then that's what they did. They pool their resources. They become roommates. And the first thing that happens when they officially become roommates is Poison Ivy drugs Catwoman, basically, because pretty much everybody believes that Catwoman knows who Batman is, so she wants to know. But luckily for Catwoman, Talia al Ghul, who is the other person that knows Batman's secret identity, and one of the two women who Batman has ever loved, Talia and Selena Kyle. Talia trained her in a way to defeat interrogation, pretty much, of anybody who would want to find out who Batman is through her. So with the technique that she learned from Talia, she was able to resist Poison Ivy by telling her that Bruce Wayne is one of many Batman, and Batman is just like a title that multiple people wore, which is kind of true, because Batman has been, of course, Bruce Wayne. He's been Dick Grayson twice, and he's been Jean-Paul Valley, aka Azrael, once for a long period of time. And then later on, even though this is before that, but later on, Batman Incorporated had multiple Batman. But yeah, so that's she was able to get rid of that whole notion, and sometimes they're being good guys and sometimes they're being bad. You know, it depends on what the situation is. Like for instance, in one storyline, Poison Ivy becomes like a head of like a science corporation or whatever, and the only reason why she did that is because they're developing this new technology that has to do with botany and stuff like that, and she takes over and becomes the head and fires like a bunch of people. So yeah, that's kind of evil, but then sometimes you're good. Well, only good when it serves them. And then it also features Edward Nygma as a good guy as well. Like, I don't know what happens that made him good. Like I said, it's I'm sure it takes place after Final Crisis, so maybe stuff happened during that storyline that changes a lot of stuff. And he's a good guy in it. But really good stories, really good art. Like I said, Gillian March, he really draws, even though sometimes the faces are weird looking, like his faces look more like what Bruce Timm would do in the animated stuff, but the body types was always like, woo, you know how to draw these women, baby. But some really cool standout storylines have Joker involved, where Harley Quinn, because Harley Quinn is basically like this. It really sells the fact that she was in an abusive relationship with Joker, but she can't get over him. And in one issue, and it was where Catwoman talked about how her frustrations with Batman is like sometimes she would think about him like all the time, like always wants to be with Batman, but then what would frustrate her is that when she's with Batman, she thinks Batman is not thinking about her, it's just thinking his mind is somewhere else, which is true. Like this guy's mind is always on not only what he thinks Catwoman's angle is, but like what if something is going on in other parts of Gotham. You know, he has to sort of strategize how he's gonna attack certain things, and that really shows, right? So she's frustrated with that, and somehow saying that to Harley, it just puts it in her head like she's frustrated with how her feelings for Joker always gets in her way. So she goes in, breaks into Arkham to kill Joker, but instead of killing him, she just falls back in love with him again, and it was just crazy. But yeah, Gotham City Sirens, man, like you guys should pick it up. Like it's filled with one and done stories. It has it features with Catwoman 83. It featured Catwoman's sister, which I didn't even know she had a sister until I read this. Where she used to be a nun, then she left the nunnery. She got married and had a kid or kids. Black Mass killed her husband and fed her husband to her. She went crazy. She was in a mental asylum, and then she broke out and realized that the reason why she's in this predicament is because of Catwoman, who she finds out is her sister, and she believes that the cat is a demon, and then she has to exorcise that demon out of her sister and save her sister from this cat demon. So it starts in Catwoman 83 and then trickles over to the Gotham City Sirens. So that's how that Tony Bernard transitions over. But yeah, it's I dug it. Towards the end, the real Batman actually comes back to life, and I want to say that the Gotham City Sirens, they have a falling out, but then they sort of come back together and like forgive each other. It's a really bittersweet tale. Like if you read this back to front, like on one sitting, even though it's probably kind of hard, I read it like maybe like in a couple of sittings. Took a break for a while and then came back to it. And then when you read the ending, it really does feel like, oh, come full circle. This is where we started now. This is where it ends. They had a good run together. So yeah, I really dug it. You know, crazy, good looking art. Like towards the end, you know, the art wasn't on point like Gilliam March did. You know, this is really towards the end. But if you go to the beginning, you know, this is definitely Gilliam March's stuff. That's Black Mask, a resurrected Black Mask during the Blackest Night storyline. This is like the Christmas special. It's like a little way it ended too. It's like, oh, so sweet. Riddler when he's a good guy. I don't know why he became a good guy. I don't even know if he went back to being a bad guy. That's the thing about it. It started out like he was like, you know what? I watched Gotham, right? And there's a whole point in Gotham where he loses the whole Riddler personality, but it's trying to come back. And I think maybe he got it from this. Gotham got it from this. Look at it. Another example of how beautiful Gilliam March's women look. Look at that. So hot. Alright, so that'll do it for my Gotham City Sirens review. It's a pretty nice, cute little read. Not a monumental, like, oh my god, things change in this thing. It's just like a cool thing. And I really wish this was the project that Margot Robbie decided to make instead of Birds of Prey, where she's not even a member of that crew. I don't know why you wouldn't do this, so we can see the new DCU version of Poison Ivy and Catwoman. It's just like, this should have been a no-brainer. That this is where you should have did, but I don't know. She wanted to do Birds of Prey. Beats the heck out of me. All right, so that should be it, folks. You've come to the end of the very first Pop Culture Galaxy show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I want you to hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, like, subscribe, and I have an email. So if you want to send in an email to ask any questions and I can answer them on live on the show, you can send your questions or any comments to the PG Show at PopCultureGalaxy.com. Again, that's the PG Show at PopCultureGalaxy.com. And then like us on Facebook. That's Facebook.com/PopCultureGalaxy. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Marky Tundra. So until next time, folks, peace.